Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Coach Kevin here, and let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to go ahead and do is share my screen with you, point out a couple things that should be helpful. First thing I would like to point out is we have a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup group, and it has the same name. Our Facebook group is called I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. We invite you to come join us. The way to do that is to go into your own Facebook account, find out where it says search Facebook, and type in I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. The other way you can find us is to go directly to facebook.com/groups/, I want to be really rich as one word. Now, if you make the choice to come join us, you will find as you go through the group that one at the top, typically, if there's anything special to announce, it'll be posted there. And as you go through, you will see, like, for instance, there's yesterday. As long as I remember to hit the record button, what we go ahead and do is we record these Zoom meetings. And then typically sometime within 24 to 48 hours or so, the meeting that you attended will be posted in the group. Sometimes it's even faster, but I give myself a day or two to get it done. But that's where you can find the recordings. So why would you even want to do that? Well, number one, let's say you're here with us today for the first time and you are attending and you're like, I really like what's going on. There were some things that were said today that I want to review. Well, now you know where you can go find it and review it in the Facebook group. The other reason might be, for instance, today is Tuesday, right? Yesterday was Monday. Well, let's say that you make it Monday, you make it Tuesday. For some reason, though, tomorrow, Wednesday, your schedule won't allow it, but you come back on Thursday and Friday. Well, now you know where to find the meeting that you missed and you can get caught up. Why might you want to do that? Well, from time to time, we go through all different types of material, but sometimes it might be a book, and sometimes it, like right now, it is a book, and sometimes we're in the middle of it. For instance, this particular book is called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was written by Maxwell Maltz, and we're on page, well, this is 158, but the PDF file, we're on 180 of 304 pages in this particular file. So obviously we've been going through it for a while, and there could be definitely a lot of things that have already been said and discussed and gone over by us as a group, either read and or discussed when we give ourselves that opportunity each day. And you might want to get caught up with us. Speaking of that, you probably also would want to have your own copy of the book that we're going through. Typically, anything that we're going through, I already, well, not typically, I already own and have read and have gone through whatever it is that we're sharing. Okay. Sometimes I've gone through it. I have some things, books I've actually gone through as many in the last several years as 60 or 70 times. And then I have books that maybe I've gone through once or twice in the last several years. That's this one right here, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's been a while since I've gone through it. But I felt intuitively as we were finishing up the last thing we were doing that this was the next step that we ought to go through. And it's turned out to be really good, especially from the feedback you guys have shared. But first of all, let me show you where to go find your own copy. Okay. Remember that we're on page 180 here. All I didn't do anything particularly special. I just typed in Psycho-Cybernetics, that's the name of the book, and then PDF, and did a search. And as I went through, there were definitely different things that popped up, and I picked the one that I liked the best. After looking at several of them, which was this one, which for me came up at the very top. And I opened it up, and what happened was, here you go. It brought me right to the book. It's the original version too, which is what I wanted. And I'm going to blow this up a little bit bigger here. And I'm also going to bring us back to the page that we're on. But if you want to go ahead and get yourself a copy, you can do it exactly the way I showed you. And then it didn't ask me for name or email or anything, but I used my download function and saved it onto the computer. So now not only do I have this copy, but I also have it on Kindle. I also have it on Audible. So multiple ways to digest this and go through it. And we are going to pick up today where we left off yesterday. And I'm going to start reading, and then I'll add commentary where I feel it might be helpful and appropriate. And then what we always like to do, though, is give you the opportunity to interact. Okay. So your opportunity to interact and ask questions, we leave 10, 15 minutes towards the end to do that. And you'll be able to come off mute and do that when the time is right. For now, if you want to go get your own copy and follow along, great. Here's the page we're on. Or if you want to get it later, that's fine too. I'm going to keep my screen share on so you can actually see the copy that I'm going through at the same time that we're reading it. So let me get a sip of water here and we'll get going. Thought control brought these new people life. At Shirley Center, Massachusetts, results attained by group psychotherapy have surpassed results obtained by classic psychoanalysis, and in a much shorter time. Two things are emphasized: group training in thought control and daily relaxation periods. The aim is re-education, intellectually and emotionally, in order to find the way into a kind of life that will be fundamentally successful and happy. Okay, and we're in the middle of reading a chapter. To give you a little background on Maxwell Maltz, his profession, he was a plastic surgeon. I say was because he has since passed on. So this book was written a little while ago, okay? But he actually learned a lot of things, and most particularly, interestingly enough, as a plastic surgeon, he ultimately ended up figuring out how we work. What do I mean by that? How our responses are to the programming that's been put inside our minds, and how we are goal-seeking mechanisms that are always needing to strive for something in order to function the way that we're supposed to. And what we end up attaining in life has more than anything to do with our own self-image than anything else. And if we don't like the results that we're getting, then we have to reprogram our subconscious mind to not fight against us, but to work with us. And we also need to change how we see ourselves. Okay. Patients, in addition to intellectual re-education and advice on thought control, are taught to relax by lying in a comfortable position while the director paints them a pleasant word picture of some placid, calm outdoor scene. The patients are also asked to practice relaxation daily at home and to carry the calm, peaceful feeling with them throughout the day. One woman patient who found a new way of life at the center wrote, "I had 7 years of sickness. I could not sleep. I had a hot temper. I was a miserable person to live with. For years, I thought I had a mud of a husband. When he came home after a single drink and was perhaps fighting the craving, I would get excited and use harsh words and drive him to a spree instead of helping him in this fight. Now I say nothing and keep calm. That helps him, and he and I get along swell. I was living my life antagonistically. I exaggerated little troubles. I was at the point of suicide. When I came to the class, I began to realize that it was not the world that was wrong with me. I'm now healthier than ever before and happier. In the old days, I didn't ever relax, even in my sleep. Now I don't bustle around as I used to, and I get the same amount of work done and don't get tired out as I used to." Removing emotional scars. How to remove old emotional scars. We can prevent and immunize ourselves against emotional scars by practicing the 3 foregoing rules. But what about the old emotional scars which were formed in the past? The old hurts, grudges, grievances against life, resentments. Once an emotional scar has formed, there is but one thing to do, and that is to remove it by surgery, the same as a physical scar. Give yourself a spiritual facelift. In removing old emotional scars, you alone can do the operation. You must become your own plastic surgeon and give yourself a spiritual facelift. The results will be new life and new vitality, a newfound peace of mind and happiness. To speak of an emotional facelift and the use of mental surgery is more than a simile. Old emotional scars cannot be doctored or medicated. They must be cut out, given up entirely, eradicated. By the way, I'm going to pause here for a second because this group, we're talking about adding more money and wealth to your life and manifesting that. You might be thinking, why are we talking about what we're talking about today? Okay. Again, at a subconscious level, if we don't see ourselves, believe ourselves worthy of having what it is that we want, then we are not going to have it if our programming is in opposition. And a lot of what causes that is what has been put into our lives from the past. And it's happened over and over and over again to us. And it's created callousness, it's created emotional scars, it's created things that get in the way of us manifesting what we want. So Maximum Maltz has learned as a plastic surgeon that having done surgery on people, a lot of people have changed their self-image through that. However, some people come out of a plastic surgery, excuse me, and with no change at all because their subconscious did not agree with it. Even though there was a physical change, at a subconscious level, they have not changed. Therefore, they keep getting what they've been getting. And it's not just the getting part, they see themselves the way they've always seen themselves. And unfortunately, for a lot of these people, the reason they went for surgery anyway is because they didn't like what they look like. So he predominantly worked with people who had been in accidents and things like that, not strictly the cosmetic surgery for, just for the sake of doing it, although he has done some of that. But he saw it helped a lot of people, but there were some that it didn't. Okay. And he realized that in order to help them change their thoughts about themselves, it went deeper than just fixing something on the outside. If you don't fix what's going on the inside, the results you have on the outside aren't going to happen the way you want them to. And you're not going to manifest the money and wealth that you want in your life. So that's why we're going through this, to help you understand what's going on, but also to help you understand the process of making the changes needed. Okay. Many people apply various kinds of salve or balm to old emotional wounds, but this simply does not work. They may self-righteously forgo overt and physical revenge, yet take it out or get even in many subtle ways. A typical example is the wife who discovers her husband's infidelity. Upon the advice of her minister and or psychiatrist, she agrees she should forgive him. Accordingly, she does not shoot him. She does not leave him. In all overt behavior, she is a dutiful wife. She keeps his house neatly, she prepares his meals well, and so on. But she makes his life hell on earth in many subtle ways, by the coldness of her heart and by flaunting her moral superiority. When he complains, her answer is, well, dear, I did forgive you, but I cannot forget. Her very forgiveness becomes a thorn in his side because she is conscious of the fact that it is proof of her moral superiority. She would have been more kind to him and been happier herself had she refused this type of forgiveness and left him. Forgiveness is a scalpel which removes emotional scars. I can forgive, but I cannot forget is only another way of saying I will not forgive. Let me repeat that. Think about this one. I can forgive, but I cannot forget is only another way of saying I will not forgive, said Henry Ward Beecher. Forgiveness ought to be like a canceled note torn in two and burned up, so it never can be shown against one. Forgiveness, when it is real and genuine and complete and forgotten, is the scalpel which can remove the pus from old emotional wounds, heal them, and eliminate scar tissue. Let me repeat that. Forgiveness, when it is real and genuine and complete and forgotten, is the scalpel, which can remove the pus from old emotional wounds, heal them, and eliminate scar tissue. Forgiveness, which is partial or half-hearted, works no better than a partially completed surgical operation on the face. Pretended forgiveness, which is entered into as a duty, is no more effective than a simulated facial surgery. Your forgiveness should be forgotten, as well as the wrong which was forgiven. Forgiveness, which is remembered and dwelt upon, reinfects the wound you're attempting to cauterize. If you're too proud of your forgiveness or remember it too much, you are very apt to feel that the other person owes you something for forgiving him. You forgive him one debt, but in doing so, he incurs another, much like the operators of a small loan companies who cancel one note and make out a new one every 2 weeks. Forgiveness is not a weapon. There are many common fallacies regarding forgiveness, and one of the reasons that its therapeutic value has not been more recognized is the fact that real forgiveness has been so seldom tried. Repeat that. There are many common fallacies regarding forgiveness, and one of the reasons is its therapeutic value has not been more recognized is the fact that real forgiveness has been so seldom tried. For example, many writers have told us that we should forgive to make us good. We have seldom been advised to forgive that we might be happy. Another fallacy is that forgiveness places us in a superior position or is a method of winning over our enemy. This thought has appeared in many glib phrases such as, don't merely try to get even, forgive your enemy and you get ahead of him. Tillotson, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, tells us, a more glorious victory cannot be gained over another man than this, that when the injury began on his part, the kindness should begin on ours. This is just another way of saying that forgiveness itself can be used as an effective weapon of revenge, which it can. Revengeful forgiveness, however, is not therapeutic forgiveness. Therapeutic forgiveness cuts out, eradicates, cancels, makes the wrongs as if they had never been. Therapeutic forgiveness is like surgery. Give up grudges as you would a gangrenous arm. First, the wrong, and particularly our own feeling of condemnation of it, must be seen as an undesirable thing rather than a desirable thing. Before a man can agree with himself to have his arm amputated, he must cease to see his arm as a desirable thing to be retained, but as an undesirable, damaging, and threatening thing to be given up. In facial surgery, there can be no partial, tentative, or halfway measures. The scar tissue is cut out completely and entirely. The wound is allowed to heal cleanly, and care is taken to see that the face will be restored in every particular, just as it was before injury, and just as if the injury had never been. You can forgive if you're willing. Therapeutic forgiveness is not difficult. The only difficulty is to secure your own willingness to give up and do without your sense of condemnation, your willingness to cancel out the debt with no mental reservations. We find it difficult to forgive only because we like our self-condemnation, or we like our sense, We find it difficult to forgive only because we like our sense of condemnation. We get a perverse and morbid enjoyment out of nursing our wounds. As long as we can condemn another, we can feel superior to him or her. No one can deny that there is also a perverse sense of satisfaction in feeling sorry for yourself. Your reasons for forgiveness are important. In therapeutic forgiveness, we cancel out the debt of the other person, not because we decided to be generous or do him or her a favor, or because we are a morally superior person. We cancel the debt, mark it dull and void, not because we have made the other person pay sufficiently for his or her wrong, but because we have come to recognize that the debt itself is not valid. True forgiveness comes only when we're able to see and emotionally accept that there is and was nothing for us to forgive. We should not have condemned or hated the other person in the first place. Not long ago, I went to a luncheon also attended by a number of clergymen. The subject of forgiveness came up in general, and the case of the adulterous woman whom Jesus forgave in particular. I listened to a very learned discussion of why Jesus was able to forgive the woman, how he forgave her, how his forgiveness was a rebuke to the churchmen of his time who were ready to stone her, etc., etc. Jesus didn't forgive the adulterous woman. I resisted the temptation to shock these gentlemen by pointing out that actually Jesus never forgave the woman at all. Nowhere in the narrative, as it appears in the New Testament, are the words forgive or forgiveness used or even hinted at, nor can they be reasonably implied from the facts as given in the story. We are told merely that after her accusers had left, Jesus asked the woman, "Hath no man condemned thee?" When she answered in the negative, he said, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." You cannot forgive a person unless you have first condemned him. Jesus never condemned the woman in the first place, so there was nothing for him to forgive. He recognized her sin or her mistake, but he did not feel called upon to hate her for it. He was able to see before the fact, when you and I must see after the fact in practicing forgiveness, that we ourselves err when we hate a person because of his mistakes, or when we condemn him, or classify him as a certain type of person, confusing his person with his behavior, or when we mentally incur a debt that the other person must pay before being restored to our good graces and our emotional acceptance. When you ought to do this, or whether you should do it, or whether you ought to do this, or whether you should do it, or can reasonably be expected to do it, is a matter which is outside the scope of this book and my own field. I can only tell you as a doctor that if you will do it, you'll be far happier, healthier, and attain more peace of mind. However, I would like to point out that this is what therapeutic forgiveness is, and that it is the only type of forgiveness that really works. And if forgiveness is anything less than this, we might as well stop talking about it. Forgive yourself as well as others. Not only do we incur emotional wounds from others, most of us inflict them upon ourselves. We beat ourselves over the head with self-condemnation, remorse, and regret. We beat ourselves down with self-doubt. We cut ourselves up with excessive guilt. Remorse and regret are attempts to emotionally live in the past. Excessive guilt is an attempt to make right in the past something we did wrong or thought of as wrong in the past. Emotions are used correctly and appropriately when they help us to respond or react appropriately to some reality in the present environment. Since we cannot live in the past, we cannot appropriately react emotionally to the past. The past can be simply written off, closed, forgotten, insofar as our emotional reactions are concerned. We do not need to take an emotional position one way or the other regarding detours that might have taken us off course in the past. The important thing is our present direction and our present goal. We need to recognize our own errors as mistakes. Otherwise, we could not correct course. Steering or guidance would be impossible. But it is futile and fatal to hate or condemn ourselves for our mistakes. You make mistakes. Mistakes do not make you. Also, in thinking of our own mistakes or those of others, it is helpful and realistic to think in terms of what we did or did not do rather than in terms of what the mistakes made us. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is to confuse our behavior with ourself, to conclude that because we did a certain act, it characterizes us as a certain sort of person. It clarifies thinking if we can see that mistakes involve something we do, they refer to actions, and to be realistic, we should use verbs denoting action rather than nouns denoting a state of being in describing them. For example, to say I failed, verb form, is but to recognize an error and can help lead to future success. But to say I am a failure, noun form, does not describe what you did, but what you think the mistake did to you. This does not contribute to learning, but tends to fixate the mistake and make it permanent. This has been proved over and over in clinical psychologic experiments. We seem to recognize that all children in learning to walk will occasionally fall. We say he fell or he stumbled. We do not say he is a faller or he is a stumbler. However, many parents do fail to recognize that all children in learning to talk also make mistakes or non-fluences, hesitation, blocking, repetition of syllables and words. It is a common experience for an anxious, concerned parent to conclude he is a stutterer. Such an attitude or a judgment, not of the child's actions, but of the child himself, gets across to the child, and he begins to think of himself as a stutterer. His learning is fixated. The stutter tends to become permanent. According to Dr. Wendell Johnson, the nation's foremost authority on stuttering, sort of thing is the cause of stuttering. He has found that parents of non-stutterers are more likely to use descriptive terms. He did not speak. Whereas the parents of stutterers were inclined to use judgmental terms. He could not speak. Writing in the Sunday Evening Post, January 5th, 1957, Dr. Johnson said, "Slowly we began to comprehend the vital point that has been missed for so many centuries. Case after case has developed after it had been diagnosed as stuttering by overanxious persons unfamiliar with the facts of normal speech development. The parents rather than the child, the listeners rather than the speakers, seem to be the ones most requiring understanding and instruction." Dr. Knight Dunlap, who made a 20-year study of habits, their making, unmaking, in relation to learning, discovered that the same principle applied to virtually all bad habits, including bad emotional habits. It was essential, he said, that the patient learn to stop blaming himself, condemning himself, and feeling remorseful over his habits if he were to cure them. Let's repeat that. It was essential, he said, that the patient learn to stop blaming himself, condemning himself, and feeling remorseful over his habits if he were to cure them. He found particularly damaging the conclusion, "I am ruined" or "I'm worthless," because the patient had done or was doing certain acts. So remember, you make mistakes. Mistakes don't make you anything. Let me repeat that. So remember, you make mistakes. Mistakes don't make you anything. All right, that seems like a good point to pause and come back to tomorrow. And welcome, welcome, welcome for those of you who joined us since we got started. I think everybody's been here before. Let me just quickly tell you what we're doing now, okay? Like I said, we like to leave 10, 15 minutes or so for you guys to go ahead and share what you like to share, ask whatever questions you would like to ask, and what it would be appropriate in this occasion. So sharing, what would be good to share? Anything at all related to you intentionally attracting money and or wealth in your life that you've done successfully. So if you set a goal to receive and you did receive, sharing that process and what you went through would be terrific. Okay, how about anything in relationship to anything good that you intended and ended up having manifested in your life? That would be awesome too. What else might you share about? Well, anything. We've been going since November 5th of last year. So depending on how long you've been following along with us, anything in relationship to what we've gone over in the past, or anything in relationship to what we've gone over today. Maybe some ahas that you've had, something you found hopeful or helpful to you, go ahead and share whatever you'd like to share. Okay, questions. What questions would be appropriate? Well, again, anything in relationship to what we've gone over in the past, anything in relationship to what we've gone over today, and or anything in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth in your life. So this is your opportunity to share. Please do. It definitely is more helpful for you if you'll share. It helps other people because particularly if you ask a question, chances are pretty good that somebody else probably had that on their mind too. They just maybe didn't choose to ask it. If you have something cool to share for an experience, that always helps increase people's hope and increases people's faith. And I am a coach. I have been a coach for a while. I'm pretty good at it. So if you don't take advantage of the time, then what we end up doing is we just stop and go on the next day. Most of the time we have a pretty good discussion, but the reason I'm taking a little longer to implore you is because we've only got 8 of us here today, and typically we've got like 12 to 15, 18 people. So there's usually more people that will participate just naturally. But today, with fewer people, you may not feel the willingness to speak up. I highly recommend that you do if you have something you'd like to share. So here's your opportunity to do so. All you have to do is come off mute, and then we'll take you in the order that you do it. Thank you. Anybody going to share anything today? Or any questions? Let's see. Thea, are you trying to speak? Can't hear you if you are. Not sure why.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, can hear you a little bit.
A little bit. I'm not sure.
Okay, you're getting louder.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hi.
Hi.
So, yesterday was my first day with you,
Uh-huh.
and after that, the brief reading, I, through contemplation, got the notion to participate in a virtual meetup that I attended this morning,
Cool.
and the manifestation, how can I say this? It spilled into what could be the opportunities to make more money. But had I not been pondering what we read just a moment ago with forgiving myself, it was all about me forgiving me and what that meant and how it slowly but surely started to redirect how I was seeing myself and what was capable. So I'm very happy about this morning, very happy about right now. And so yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, you're welcome. Glad to see that you're getting into a vibration that is going to bring more good into your life. So, yeah, that's one of the biggest blocks we've got, is
Yeah.
how we think and feel about ourselves, right?
Mhm.
If if,
Mhm.
if we're beating up on ourselves, it's kind of hard to say, yeah, hey, God, universe, bless me with all this stuff because I'm a piece of crap. I mean, it
Right.
just doesn't that right. We can't be saying I'm not worth it, but please do this. But
Right.
we don't have to qualify. It's not a we don't qualify. What we do is we just don't judge and leave it alone. Quit judging others. Probably more importantly, quit judging ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because when Jesus said don't judge, right? It's you think that's what he's saying, don't go judge other people around. But whatever judgment we put out there, we're ultimately bringing to ourselves. So if we put no judgment out, we can't be judged.
Uh-huh.
So
And
we're free from that burden.
exactly. And the most important thing that I feel that I can take away from today's session is the fact that it was made very clear that Jesus never condemned in the first place.
Right.
So amazing with even how I am going to begin perceiving what I would consider how I'm going to judge my faults or mistakes or yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't there judging her. I mean, supposedly one of the worst acts according to the commandment list, right? Okay, where's
Right.
this one on the list? Ooh, that's a bad one. And he's
Hmm.
just like, no, I'm not judging, neither do I. Yeah,
Right.
but don't do it anymore. and,
Right.
the don't do it anymore is more for her own protection
Yeah.
than it is for a judgment thing. It's like, look what happened as a result of doing this. You put
Yeah.
yourself in a position, this almost happened, right? And
Hmm.
it doesn't need to be that way. And you didn't know how bad it could have become either. She probably did not know at the time how it could have potentially led to her death. She knew how the commandments worked, right? But
Hmm.
it really literally brought her to a point, and that's because of the laws of the land at the time.
Right.
It wasn't just a commandment in scripture. The laws of the land mirrored a lot of scripture, but it was, these judges and Pharisees and people that were really, really strict on trying to enforce everything to the letter instead of having compassion and forgiveness and stuff like that. So, hey, don't do it anymore because I might not be here next time. I mean, I'm always here, but I might be off doing something else. God's always here, but I haven't yet ascended back to him, so I may not be there. So please don't do that anymore because I
Right.
don't know if I can help you out the next time.
So yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other comments or questions?
I liked the last statement that said, you make mistakes, mistakes don't make you anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Very, very cool stuff. Anybody else have anything to share or any questions to ask?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Everett, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I guess I gotta do another shout out. I really like this book. It's like no matter what chapter I go, it just like kind of says something that about real life forgiveness and stuff that I think I've always held. And I just want to say it is a good book. And the other thing I want to ask you, maybe a opinion. When you get to these decisions, like important decisions, or
Uh-huh.
whether like me, like I'm a crossroad or picking areas or picking agencies to work with. And
Okay.
this person sound good. Then I go here, this person sound good. And it's like I'm just amazingly run into just like great people. And like I say, I think it's like you say, what you manifest in your attitude. My attitude has totally, improved. I'm
Yeah.
still at this crossroad. I guess prior to my life, I always kind of like picked the wrong company. Now I'm trying to do something different. Is there any advice? I know you trust your instincts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Trust your ability. It's not even your instincts. I mean, I know we've been told that, right? But what it
Yeah.
is it's God, the universe, trying to give you some direction. So if instead of thinking of it, because if I think of it as my instinct, that's flawed because I make decisions all the time. If I don't get help, that could be wrong. I make decisions all the time that may not be what's best for me if it's just me trying to use my own head and use logic. But if I take it to somebody that knows more than I do, ultimately God in the universe, they don't make any mistakes with this stuff. They never do make mistakes with it. I'm the only one who can make a mistake with it. And instead of fretting over the right decision or the wrong decision, what I like to do is put parameters in there that protect me. I like to put things in there when I'm asking for something like this or something better. Because that way, if I ask for something that ultimately isn't what I should have, then I know there's a replacement coming that's going to be better than what I asked for. So I can get excited about it instead of upset if I don't end up with what, I asked for. I'm actually going to get something better. The other thing that I do is I like to protect myself and say, hey, here's what I've come up with based upon what I've been able to figure out. I haven't really heard back from you yet. So my intention is not to be stubborn. My intention, though, is to go act on what I've come up with. If you could help assure me, that would be great. However, more importantly, if I am off track, can you please steer me back onto track? If I do go off track shortly, would you please, guide me back on so I don't lose a lot of time or energy or effort going in the wrong direction. And I'm totally willing to listen to you. And I think God likes us to make our decisions, and he likes us to be part of the process. So sometimes he's like, okay, I've just given you 5 great opportunities. Which one would you pick if it was up to you, Everett? Okay. Or 2 or 3 or whatever the number is. Okay. Which one of the 2 or 3, or would you take 2 of the 5 or whatever? Which one or 2, or what do you feel best about? Okay, cool. You know what? You picked number 1 and you picked number 3 out of the 5. You probably should have picked number 2 and number 3. He's not mad at you. He gave you a chance, and then he explains, here's why. If you do number 1, this is what you didn't notice would probably happen. So let me help you avoid that. But number 2, you didn't actually see how good it really could be because you didn't know how it would unfold. But number 3, you were right on with. Just think of God as your business partner. Think of him as the chairman of the board and you're the CEO. The chairman of the board is always there for the CEO to go to if necessary, and to have a relationship with and to ask things, right? The chairman of the board isn't there to beat up on the CEO, because ultimately the chairman of the board hired the CEO anyway. The chairman of the board, ultimately, it was their choice who the CEO was. If you think of your relationship with God as a life partner or as a business partner, and again, he's the chairman and you're the CEO, that means you get to choose and do a lot of what happens in the business and a lot of what goes on. And he wants you to have that opportunity to grow and learn that way. He also knows too, though, that you should go to him and confer with him and then go run the business. And sometimes when necessary, this is a little bit different than my analogy, because honestly, most of the work that goes on in the background, that's God in the universe taking care of it. It's mostly you deciding what you want things to be like, and then believing it to be true already and thanking God as if it is true. And then therefore it will manifest. Just give them the time to do it, and give God the time to give you the feedback and say, hey, Everett, you know what? Go do this to receive it. And you go do it. And you're like, oh, that was really cool. But you can participate in this process too and grow, because I think someday, and this is my personal beliefs, we aren't going to live here on planet Earth forever. I don't think we poof out of existence. I think God is someone very similar to us who gives us guidance and direction, but he's just been around for a lot longer than we have. Now, I'm not saying like he looks older and older and older every day, because time to God doesn't matter. Okay. We're the ones who age in this physical body right now. But I'm saying from a standpoint of maybe God already had the experience similar to yours, Everett, but maybe that was 20,000 years ago. And he has since, left Earth, his own version of Earth, and has since learned a lot more. And he's come back now to help you learn what he's learned. And maybe sometime in the future, we're going to go back and reach out to another group of, for lack of a better term, intelligences, and help them get to where we do, just the same way that, moms and dads help their children learn and grow and walk and talk and things like that. So think of this as a fun journey. Don't think of it as a race. Think of it more like a classroom, and think of it more like a place to experiment. And that any mistakes that you make, as long as you're open to God helping you, you'll be able to get yourself on track if you get off. And then you don't have to worry so much about, am I making the right decision or not? What you should spend more time concerned with is, do you feel good or not? Because if you feel good, that means your connection is strong. And if you feel good and you're quiet enough, God can speak to you in the way that you'll hear it. When I say speak, it'll be more probably feelings and thoughts than actual words. Sometimes it might seem to be actual words, but you'll know what to do. You'll know the general sense. But I truly believe, Everett, that you're going to be very successful with what you're doing. Okay. Just let him be your business partner. Let him be your life partner. Give him the chance to do more than you're already allowing him to do. Be willing to be the one that chooses. Think of him as building the house and you're the one who gets to decorate it. Kind of, for lack of, I'm trying to give you, you have a role in this whole thing, but you don't have to get all sweaty, bloodied, and bruised up to succeed. If you allow God to do more, and he's more than happy to do it. God in the universe, behind the scenes, will do plenty, and your life can be a lot more fun. It sounds like it's starting to become more fun anyway. Is that true or not true?
It is very much more fun. I would say you are a great coach, and this is a great group because I followed myself on being positive through really being with y'all. And yeah, it's been a lot of growing. I mean, I probably manifest and did things now I probably have never done, even this real estate that I've joined and started this group and thought. So I would just say you hit a lot of points on target. Don't enjoy the process. Don't stress it. Have fun with it. Like you say, don't necessarily follow your instincts. Kind of feel more guided, and
Right.
That's a deeper thing. And when you say you did, that was an excellent point. And I said it. He's absolutely right. You want to feel guided more than saying like an impulse instinct. No, guided, and that's one thing I would change. So that is excellent advice, and I really could see, like you said, a one-on-one or the coaching program. That's when when it's time. I'm definitely joining because I think I get a lot out of this group, and I'd like to take it to the next level. So
Well,
I will be one of
I
them
do
people.
group and I do one-on-one. 90% of the people I work with are in group, and they still end up with pretty much the same results anyway.
Mhm.
So, and obviously in a group setting, it would cost less. So if you want one-on-one, great. I'm happy to work with people one-on-one. I found though that I right now have 8 people in group. Every single one of them is moving forward pretty fast. So if you want to talk about that, you can always send me an email and we could have a discussion, which is coachkevinsparks@gmail.com. For any of you guys, by the way. Thank you, Everett. I appreciate it. Okay. Any additional questions or comments for today? Okie dokie. Well, oh, hello. You got something? Hello? Or did you just come off mute accidentally? All right. Questions or comments going once? Questions or comments going twice? Questions or comments?
Takira.
Hey, Takira.
How are you today?
Terrific. How about you?
Good, thank you. This
Okay,
is
so what part of you, nails, hair, makeup, do you feel that you don't have correct?
I'll show
Usually
you.
when you disappear, you're like, I am in the middle of it. I'm not ready.
I was actually eating. I made some healthy yams.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on this low cholesterol diet.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I'm trying to get my health right. But today I was like, let me manifest a car. I'm not done yet, but I'm doing the processes because I need a vehicle. And I walked in the dealership today, like, I'm not putting no money down. I'm just gonna pay for a used car to get me from A to B. But when I walked in, I saw a very nice red Hyundai. And I was like, oh, that's a beautiful car. Anywho, the dealer said, why don't you buy a new car? And I was like, okay, I will have to go to my credit union. And then he took me to the car that was identical, the red car that I saw when I first came in. I said, that's crazy. I just said I like this car and you're telling me to come to it. So I gave him my paperwork. So that's where we are. I came home when they're doing their thing. So I'm like, what do I do now? I know you just said to say like this or something better, but I'm like, well, what's better than this nice red car?
just leave, yeah. So just don't worry. You don't need to do anything. Just wait.
Thank you. Like he's texting me like, oh, call your credit union. I don't feel like I should I feel like I should actually go to the mall, like do something fun that takes
Well, there
my
you
mind.
go. If that's what you feel, go do it.
See, this is why I love you, Kevin. This is why, because I get to go shopping. Thank you. So do nothing.
That's not what I said, but that if that feels guided, sure. Whatever you feel guided to do, that's what you should do, though.
Thank you. Well, I really feel guided to go shopping, so I think I'm gonna go to the mall and let this matter work itself out.
Absolutely.
But thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for your teachings, and this was a really good book.
Cool.
Really good chapter, rather.
Yeah.
Very good chapter. And then on the forgiveness part, I'm kind of like working on that because I'm horrible at forgiving people. And I don't know, I'm just gonna try to instill this today of like, don't even condemn it. Don't see it.
Yeah.
Don't,
Well,
it's
forgive
hard.
yourself for not being forgiving and move forward.
Okay. Forgive
Yeah,
myself.
forgive yourself, but with the intention that you want to forgive. I mean, if you really do. If
I
you're
do.
not ready to yet, okay. But if you're like, you know what? And again, the number one reason to forgive is if we don't forgive somebody, it's like trying to poison them while we're the one drinking the poison. So it's just,
Yeah. What if you like really don't like them? Like,
well, you don't have to become any, when it's all done, you don't have to become their best friend.
okay.
You just have to, the emotional charge with it has to be let go. And then if they were to walk across your path, let's say that you're on one side of the street and they were the other, they didn't even see you, but they walk by and they're close enough that you see them and they look like they're having a good time or they're happy or whatever, where you don't go,
Yeah.
right? Where you're just like, oh, that's cool. No, or even better yet, hey, looks like they're having a good time. That's awesome. Life must have changed for them.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. I'll try and let you know how it works.
All right. Go forgive someone today. Well, don't create a problem so you have to forgive someone new today.
Oh no.
Okay.
I think they come automatically. People like
no. You attract them.
I know, and it's awful because I am such a nice, happy person, but I know that I am. Kevin, I'm the angel of the world.
The angel that will not forgive. The unforgiving angel, is that who you are?
You know what? This is why I'm going shopping.
Yeah, you better get out there. Go shop. All right.
Thank
You're welcome.
Kira.
All right, everybody. You have an
Kevin,
amazing
can I
day.
ask you a question?
Oh, yes. Hi, Rika.
Hi. Takira brought something up that I was thinking about too,
Okay.
about forgiveness.
Mhm.
If somebody tells you a problem, and I can't disclose because it's personal to
Yeah.
other people's privacy.
Yeah.
Disclosed a problem to me
Mhm.
about their child.
Okay.
And normally it gets done with the hint that I approached the child.
So this
and-
person asked you to approach their child.
No, told me the problem
Okay.
with the underlying hint that I know you'll probably go do something. And it's kind of like if your best friends talk to you about a problem they're having with their child, an adult child,
Yeah.
and they don't want to talk to the child, but they kind of would like you to go do it.
Okay. So did this friend?
Okay. The thing is,
I don't care what the
said-
person's done. Let's talk.
No.
Okay.
It's a decision that their child made or is in the process of making, and they're afraid of the decision. And I just came right out. I mean, it just came right out of my mouth the minute their mouth shut. And I said, I'm not saying anything. Every time I do, I get my butt kicked.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
I mean, I think I'm a pretty forgiving person. If somebody does something to me, I might get mad like instantaneously, but my fuse burns out very fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, we're just all human. We're all idiots at times. I know
Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
So I just I let it go. But if something comes again and then you remember, no. Is that showing a sign of really, did you forgive and let go? I mean, forgive and forget. How do you forget?
Well, what I'm hearing here, so does this person, forget the kid for a second, does this person come to you with their problems a lot?
Sets me up. It's
Yeah,
probably
okay.
more like it.
Yeah, okay. So that's the thing that you're talking about forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes it more clear. All right. So first of all, you should forgive them. You also, it's okay to say, hey, look, like you just did, I get my butt kicked. But actually, you know what? Say, hey, not just, it could be because you get your butt kicked. They obviously don't seem to care because they like seeing you get butt kicked, or they don't realize you're getting butt kicked. All right. But just say, you know what? Is this child of theirs an adult?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I've been doing some studying, and I've learned something real important lately. I don't know your friend's name. I'm going to say her name's Anne. And I've learned something a very important lesson lately, that when it comes to adults, they need to make their own decisions. And ultimately, I trust that God will help them if they're ready to receive God's help. And I've learned something about God and me. And the thing is, I've learned that God is God and I'm not him.
I
So
sort of said something like that too after I said, you know what? Every time I do this, I get my butt kicked. But, you know, this kid is an adult. They can make their own decisions. All I feel that I can do is I can just pray for them that they make the right decision, because any consequences are going to be theirs alone, just like with you, just like with me.
mhm, yep. I mean, that sounds pretty good. If your friend, what you might want to do is figure out why your friend thinks you're the person to come to. I don't think you need to overanalyze it. You just need to decide, do I enjoy this? Does this help me, or does it help, or does it not help me? You don't have to worry about if it helps them. Again, I've shared this before. I'm going to share it again. A lot of times when I say a prayer throughout the day, at some point, I'm going to say something to this effect. Dear Heavenly Father, please bless that only those people, places, ideas, things, circumstances, and events that are for my highest and best good and greatest joy, prosperity, and abundance are allowed into my life this day and night, and that all others are kept away.
Like that. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if things are coming at you that don't fit those parameters, it's not because you didn't ask, it's because either you didn't believe it or you weren't fully convinced. But that'll show you where those weaknesses are. Okay, why do I always listen to, why is the person that's sick always come to me? Or why is it the person, don't overanalyze. Instead go, okay, I don't want this. You either do or you don't. And the important thing to understand is it's for your highest and best good, not theirs. And you're like, but I want everybody's highest and best good. That's God's job. You pray for your highest and best good. If you have younger children, great, pray for their highest and best, but once there's a certain age where a child's got it, it needs to grow up too and get their opportunity. And particularly if someone's an adult, even if they're not a very, experienced adult as far as making decisions, if they never learn to do that, they'll never grow. So you just got to say, hey, I trust God so much that when so-and-so is ready, their situation will be taken care of. The only thing that's keeping their situation from getting better or being taken care of is themselves. And I can't really do or say much unless I'm guided to do so. That's probably going to change the way they're thinking or feeling right now. So I'll leave it to God to put something into their life. But I'm going to go ahead and live my highest and best good. And that's what I want for myself, right? What's for my highest and best good this day and night. This day and night, what's best for me this day and night. And please just keep the other stuff away. Now, that doesn't mean occasionally other stuff won't happen, because maybe we didn't have the faith, or we were good for part of the day and then we go mischievously do something we know is going to cause us a problem. Well, we negated what we asked for when we do that on purpose to ourselves. You know, if we purposely go out there and get wasted and then go yell at somebody and do all this stuff, well, we kind of negated that prayer at that point. But we can always come back and forgive ourselves, which is what we talked about in this chapter. So the ultimate thing is, Rika, always ask yourself when you're, around someone, how does that person, do I feel uplifted, or do I feel like my battery's drained? And if you're constantly feeling uplifted, then you know that your vibration's good and you're connecting with people on that vibe. If your battery's constantly being drained, then you know that you've got to make a change, because you're attracting that. You're attracting people, and for some reason you get some satisfaction at a subconscious level from that. There's a program in there. But I think most people will be able to keep, when I get around Bob Proctor and the other coaches, it's so different when I look at who their friends and the people they hang out with and what they do. It's not phony positivity at that point. They're just like, I don't think that way anymore, therefore nobody around me does either, because they're just, we're not in vibration with each other. So this person, that comes to you for this stuff and sets you up for a butt kicking, you need to ask yourself, do I want that anymore? And I know you said stop this time in a way, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
But you also, there's a way to go about it, kind of like I said, where you protect yourself, where they're not even going to show up and ask you anymore. They'll go pester somebody else. They're
Handle
always
it
going to look for
themselves.
somebody else till they're ready. And there'll be somebody totally ready and available to listen to their crap if that's where they're at.
Or they'll just learn to handle that stuff, or quit interfering.
Well, yeah, just stay out of it. Just you don't handle it. You never learn how to handle it. That's not, Jesus didn't sit there and listen to people complain. He
Mhm.
healed when they came to him to be healed. But you didn't sit there. He didn't go, oh, he wasn't the person to say, hey, my life sucks and I'm broken, whatever. Almost everybody that was, well, no, only those that were healed were the ones that were actually ready and humble enough to be healed. If they'd been coming up to him complaining, saying, I hate my freaking leg, I can't walk right, I've got constant bad breath, I haven't been able to get rid of it for the last 100 years, and I'm going to be 105 tomorrow. You know what? You need to fix my leg and fix my breath now. You're Jesus. Come on, fix me.
Complainers.
That's not how they approached him.
Yeah.
They approached him as who he was, knowing that he had the ability to heal, in humility, and said, hey, please help me.
Yeah.
Give me the faith to be healed. Please heal me. But they were ready. So
Yeah.
he didn't sit there and take people's crap. That would have been a bad example. He would have been setting the example for failure. He set the example for success instead of the example for failure. All right. Thank you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye, you
You're
guys.
all very
Enjoy
welcome.
your red car.
Oh, thank you.